Hello, welcome back. In the last lecture, we saw fundamentals of Neo Marxism, fundamentals of Neo Marxism, and the ideas which on which Neo Marxism is based on. Ideas like freedom, ideas like alienation, ideas like humanism, then ideas of consumerism, advocacy of radical democracy. There is a criticism, rejection of reason and science, whereby they say science by promoting technology, by promoting technology, science promotes consumerism. They say capitalism, capitalism has co-opted culture as its basic structure. Culture, they say, is part of basic structure, and both economy and culture affect each other. We are limited to only one kind of living, whereby our goal is acquire as many things as possible, right? Man has become greedy, worker has lost will to revolution because worker has been consumed in consumerist culture. Worker finds happiness in consumption. Worker finds satisfaction in consumption of commodities. So these neo-Marxists suggest that revolution should be brought through the people who are out of mainstream, and revolution should be brought through the people who are subaltern. We will understand the word subaltern more in Dalit movement and subaltern view of history, right? In this lecture, we are going to see ideas of Max Horkheimer and Theodor Adorno. Max Horkheimer and Theodor Adorno in their book Dialectics of Enlightenment. In their book Dialectics of Enlightenment gave gave concept of negative dialectics. Horkheimer and Adorno in their book Dialectics of Enlightenment gave idea of negative dialectics. Right? Why negative dialectics? Because it is opposite to idea of Marx. How is Marx Marx dialectics? It is teleological, whereby Marx says that be progressive. History will be progressive. The class which is progressive will win battle of classes, will survive battle of classes, and will emerge to be the next class. Between master and slaves won because they were progressive, right? Between nobles and peasants won because they were progressive. But between capitalists and workers, there is a stalemate, there is a draw. Nobody is winning. Why? Because worker is limited to consumerist culture, right? By dialectics, they change the idea of dialectic, which is going backwards, which is not progressive, it is regressive. What does this mean? That worker is no longer progressive class, but worker is finding happiness, is finding satisfaction in commodities, in consumerism. That is why worker is going towards serfdom or slavery of commodities, slavery of material. Why worker class is not able to progress? Why worker class is not able to progress? Because worker class going back to slavery. Slavery of what? Slavery of commodities. By dialectics you move forward. By dialectics you move forward towards progress. So progress the next progress according to Marx should have been in direction of dictatorship of proletariat and revolution. This revolution is not happening because because of the concept of negative dialectics, where worker is moving backwards to slavery. Slavery of what? Slavery of commodities and materialism, whereby worker finds satisfaction in acquiring commodities. Worker has lost will for revolution. This concept of negative dialectics, that is going back to slavery, right? Historical materialism, by means of historical materialism, slavery slavery happened, then happened uh, capitalism, sorry, feudalism happened, then happened capitalism, then Marx says that there will be revolution. This is positive dialectics, this is going towards progress. We are here. Marx says we are going to move to revolution, we will make progress. Concept of negative dialectics say worker is moving in this direction, worker is moving towards serfdom and slavery. Slavery and serfdom of what? Commodities. This is the idea of negative dialectics, that worker is moving towards slavery, slavery of commodities, slavery of consumerist culture, right? To explain this idea more, explain the idea of negative dialectics more, we'll understand ideas of Horkheimer, Max Horkheimer. What does Max Horkheimer say? Max Horkheimer, he is a critic of positivism. He is a critic of positivism. What does positivism mean? What does positivism mean? Positivism means science or objectivity. Science or objectivity. Positivism. Positivism is basically limiting oneself to objective reality. to the things which are verifiable and through the things which are logical and observable. Positivism says that the theory should be verifiable and the theory should be observable. It rejects it rejects metaphysical ideas. It rejects ideas which are it rejects ideas which are not observable. So positivism will be very much limited to observable things. It will be limited to science. Horkheimer is critical of positivism. He is critical of science and he is critical of objectivity. Objectivity in theory, he is critical of that. Right? He says he says that technology, technology, positive reasoning, positive reasoning and instrumentality. Instrumentality means I am doing something because I find reason in doing that thing. I find goal in doing that thing. Right? I am using this pen, this S pen. Why? Because it is able to write. So I have instrumentality, this pen. I have use of this pen. Horkheimer criticizes instrumentality. Horkheimer criticizes technology. Horkheimer criticizes science, scientific reasoning. Why? Because these things limit man, limit man physical aspects of the world, limits man to physical aspects, whereby you you look only at external factors, right? Imagine imagine a place, imagine a place whereby you you limit your friendship, you limit your friendships to the people who are only within your income range, right? So you are making friends only on basis of how much they are making, which class they belong to. So you are looking at only external factors while making friends. The thing the thing that happens in this situation is you never know you never know they are your friends or they are just a part of your network. If you make friends based on your class, based on your how much money they have, how much money you have, then your friendships will be very limited. You are looking at only the external factors of that friendship. Friendship goes much beyond external factors, right? This is what Horkheimer criticizes on bigger level, that people are limited to physical aspects of things. People only see things externally and they don't give any importance to internal things like love, compassion, friendship, even relationships, right? And why and how this is happening, how people are being limited to physical aspects and external factors. For this, Horkheimer gives Horkheimer gives one reasoning, which is culture. Culture influencing people to become consumerist. It is culture which influences people to become consumerist, right? Horkheimer criticizes positivism. He criticizes positivism limits us because it limits us physical aspects, external aspects. And how this happens? This happens because culture influences us to be consumerist, to be external than internal, right? Culture culture says that we should wear a type of clothes, we should wear a type of shoe, we should be a type of person. But but by looking at shoes, clothes, and appearance, you cannot judge what a person is or what kind of a person is. You'll have to be very internalized with them to find the type of person, right? This is what Horkheimer says. Horkheimer says we are being limited to positive factors because culture is making us be consumerist, right? The same analysis was applied by criticism of consumerism was applied by a scholar called as Theodor Adorno, whereby Theodor Adorno analyzed music industry music industry of West. He says he says that music industry is due to capitalism, right? Is due to capitalism. He says that popular music is not music, it is just sound, and it is unnatural. He says going back to folk music is the solution. These are the views of Theodor Adorno. He analyzes music industry in Neo Marxist sense, whereby he says that capitalism has influenced music industry and music industry has changed. Folk music has gone, folk music is no longer there, and popular music or music which is there, it is just sound and it is unnatural, right? Auto tunes, then sampling, producing, nothing is being generated here, everything is done on computer, right? So this is what Theodor Adorno criticizes. Most relevant example for this question comes on Theodor Adorno. You can give example of industry plants. Industry tries to give boost to such people which they want to make big. People say Sabrina Carpenter is an industry plant. People even say Ariana Grande is an industry plant. So that their music is pushed, and the real music gone, music which is and real music is gone. By pushing these people, capitalism changes music and changes culture and makes it more consumerist, right? He gives another concept of end of individual, end of individual. What does this end of individual mean? End of individual means losing of your self, losing yourself, losing your authenticity, right? Becoming a product of mass culture. How does this happen? How does this happen? You you go to Travis Scott's concert in Mumbai. Go to I am giving examples of music, contemporary music, because they very much fit in Theodore Adorno. How you lose your individuality, how you lose your authenticity. To see this, just go to Travis Scott's concert in Mumbai, in New York, or anywhere. You will find the same kind of people there, right? You will find people, you will find people with baggy jeans, with Jordans, with a Bali in one of their ear piercing. You will find people with long hairs, and you will find uh, and very fashionable people, right? But their fashion is very similar. There is not much authenticity among the people follow a certain kind of music, so they try to copy the musician, and that is why they their individual self, lose their authenticity, because they are trying to copy something. They are product of mass culture, right? They are a product of mass culture, right? To explain this, Adorno's very famous quote is there, that tends to man tends to forget his roots, forget his repression, by identifying himself in a large group of people, right? You you lose you lose the sense that country is not doing well, economy is not doing well, society is in shambles, there are rapes everywhere, and the situation is not good around the country, around the world, right? You try to identify in a with a large group who are in a similar situation as you, to forget your repression. This is what Theodor Adorno says. What does Theodor Adorno basically do? Is analysis of music. If question comes, don't worry and use examples of Travis Scott or Sabrina Carpenter, of anyone else, because this is what is essentially happening, right? Okay. Then there is we have understood Theodor Adorno, we have understood Max Horkheimer. Now to understand the Neo Marxism, Frankfurt School more, we should understand ideas of Herbert Marcuse. Herbert Marcuse. Herbert Marcuse wrote a book as One Dimensional Man. One Dimensional Man. right? Again again the Marcuse, every neo-Marxist will only say the same three things: that society is becoming consumerist, that science, rationality, and objectivity is bad, and we are conforming conforming to values of modern society. Same three things. Everyone will say same three things in different words. In different words. Now, for Theodore Adorno says that positivism is bad, right? For the same thing, sorry, Horkheimer says positivism is bad. For the same thing, Theodore Adorno gives concept of end of individual. End of individual. What does end of individual mean? That we are losing our authentic self by becoming product of mass culture, right? The same concept of end of individual, loss of authenticity was given by Marcuse in concept of conformism. Conformism matlab, what does conformism mean? It means sheep herding. We are being conformed, we are being limited to the values of modern society. We lose critical thinking. We lose critical thinking and we stop questioning things. What does conformism mean? Stopping questioning of things, stopping critical thinking. If something bad is happening, we are not criticizing that. This is conformism, right? This is conformism. We can also say that it is end of individual. We can also say that it is positivism, right? Very similar concept, just these people use different names for it. What is conformism? Conformism is conforming to values of modern society, is not questioning, not applying critical analysis of modern society. It is lack of critical thinking. And what does Marcuse do? Marcuse applies critical thinking capitalism. By applying critical thinking to capitalism, he says that we are one-dimensional man in a one-dimensional society. What does this mean? That one-dimensional man in a one-dimensional society. We are limited to consumerism in a consumerist society. This is what he wants to say. This is what he wants to say. What is one dimensional? One dimension signifies here. One dimension signifies consumerism. We are consumerist people in a consumerist society. We are economic people in an economic society, right? And by applying critical thinking to capitalism, he says that capitalism creates false consumer needs. False consumer needs. So if you have gone through the marketing strategies of luxury brands such as LV, Rolls-Royce, or Rolex, these consumer brands, Ferrari, what these people do, what these people actually do, what their marketing strategy is to convey convey to you convey to you that by owning our products, you will be a better person, be a superior person. By owning our products, you will change your class, right? These luxury brands create false consumer needs, right? Aspiration changes. Aspiration changes from becoming a better person, acquiring new ideas, actually working towards betterment of society, towards towards we start thinking consumerist sense. I want to become something to acquire something. That should not be the case, right? Capitalism produces false consumer needs, and we are attracted towards those false consumer needs, right? So this was the first analysis that Marcuse gives of capitalism. Then, like every other neo-Marxist, he will say that individual individual will be limited to mass culture. Individual lose his individuality, and individual authenticity. Individual will conform to the ideas of us, and that is why capitalism as a whole is is a system of domination, and it is a system of social inequality. Capitalism dominates you. Capitalism dominates you by limiting you to economic sense, by to limiting you to a consumer, limiting you to being a consumer. You are just a consumer in a capitalistic system whereby you acquire things endlessly, and that is how capitalism dominates you. If you acquire thing, if you acquire thing, then you will lie superior or better in social hierarchy. If you don't have things, you will be below social hierarchy. You will be below in social hierarchy. So capitalism by domination, capitalism by l- segregation of products, capitalism by limiting its products to the one who has capital creates social inequality, right? So this is how capitalism is bad. It creates false consumer needs. It limits individuality of a person. It conforms person to needs of capitalism, conforms person to modern society. By conforming person to the values of modern society, false consumer needs, it creates a system of domination, and it creates a society which is essentially unequal, right? How to how to fight back this dominating system, this consumerism, right? How to fight back consumerism, right? First, allow people to dissent. Allowing people to dissent, allowing people to dissent, allowing diversity of thoughts, right? Then addressing addressing the real human needs. How much, even after acquiring all the material goods in the world, you will be unhappy. Happiness happiness does not belong to material things. Cannot seek all the happiness, or you cannot keep seeking happiness in material things. because phone you have, the car you have, the clothes will have, they will effectively depreciate one day. They will get soiled one day. They don't have they don't have the utility. They don't have happiness. They don't have so much happiness as things like love, friendship, experiences, right? What are real human needs? They are not materialistic. Want a good relationship. You want a real connection with someone. You want to play, you want to explore things, right? You want to understand all the emotions there are, right? You find happiness in those things. How much you acquire, how much you have, does not that does not mean you are happy, right? So happiness is not materialistic, and and what does Neo Marxist school say? It says that address real human needs, address real human needs, and take a view away from consumerist culture. Right? They say they say capitalism as a system needs to be changed, needs change, and industrial production also need to be changed. Production needs to be changed, right? So this was uh, the ideas of Herbert Marcuse. This was the ideas of Herbert Marcuse, whereby he says that we are conformed, we are limited to economy, we are limited to consuming things, right? Now we'll understand ideas of Eric Fromm, right? He applies Eric Fromm. Eric Fromm, Eric Fromm, what does Eric Fromm do? Eric Fromm applies psychoanalysis to explain loss of freedom and how social structure influence our social structure, right? He applies psychological analysis capitalism, and says that capitalism is destructive destruct how destructive, because destroys economy. It destroys economy. It destroys economy, one, right? And again limits individual to economic sphere, right? And it impacts psychology of an individual. To make you understand his concept of psychoanalysis or his analysis of capitalism through psychological lens, I'll say one thing. I'll say one thing, right? Very simply, take yourself Hong Kong or Tokyo or South Korea. These are societies which are of peak capitalism, right? Social inequality is there. Capitalism highest form somewhere is evident around the world. It is South Korea, it is Japan, especially Tokyo or Hong Kong, right? They are their work culture is very toxic. work hours are very bad, and society as a whole, society as a whole glorifies toxic work culture, right? They glorify acquiring things. They glorify acquiring economic things. They glorify toxicity, and they glorify not giving enough time to family, relationships, friendships, and all those things, and limiting oneself to work. Right? Happens in such a system. Happens in such a system that people don't want to marry. People are lonely. Suicide rates, if you see in these three countries, among the people who work in capitalistic ventures, you will find the suicide rates are through the roof. There is no one to take care of parents or children, right? And combination of all these things is that they are lonely, and they suicide rate is very high. Capitalism, what does capitalism does? Capitalism affects person, a individual, psychologically, and that leads to loss of freedom, and that leads to loneliness, right? So this was Eric Fromm. To understand Eric Fromm, just remember just remember that we will see people from Tokyo or South Korea suiciding because capitalism has affected them psychologically. Capitalism has made them lonely, right? Psychological analysis of capitalism was done by Eric Fromm, and he is another scholar made contribution in Neo Marxism, right? Now, next scholar, which I'm going to mention here, but we are going to understand him in democracy, his concepts of legitimation crisis. Why I am not taking this thing, Abhi? Why I am not explaining Habermas now? Because we need to understand legitimacy first. Then we will be able to understand legitimation crisis, right? He's a essential scholar of deliberative democracy, right? We are going to understand him in topic democracy. Now let's just let's just stop here, because we I feel we have covered Frankfurt School in detail, whereby we understood Horkheimer, Adorno, Marcuse, and Fromm. All talk about similar things, although different words, and uh, and applies the similar terminology to different industries or different means to understand human, right? So this was Neo Marxism. This was Neo Marxism's Frankfurt School and Cultural School. Now next we are going to do the structural school of Neo Marxism, or structural Marxism, where we will understand ideas of Althusser. I hope you understood this. I'll see you in the next lecture.